Let's start. When she comes on board, we'll announce her present.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. And good morning, all the early career researchers that have been a part of this journey with us over the last 8 weeks here. It has been an amazing period every Saturday, every morning of yours, spending it with us, learning research and how to do it better. And we are rounding up the session with the icing on the cake. That's how I see it anyway. AI in research. Like many inventions that have happened over the years, most time they face resistance, but the reality is that we cannot fight AI. We need to incorporate AI into what we do and make the best and responsible use of it. AI is going to be the next gold mine, and every researcher, be it students, early career researchers, senior researchers, need to know how best to maximize its benefit. And that's why we've deemed it fit to have this session as part of our early career researchers manuscript writing course. We have an expert to take us through. When I was going through the slide, I saw very interesting packages that will be discussed in this session. I've used a couple of them, and I'm looking forward to learn more of them during this session. Prof, I don't know if she's on the call now.
No, I'm here to see her.
Okay. So, just to engage us while we await the guest speaker to join us on the session, who will be giving us a very exciting talk anyway. AI, which is artificial intelligence, is not totally new, but what is new is the fact that we are now using LLM for interaction now, which is a higher level of machine languages, and it's revolutionized what AI can do. I mean, it can now think like, not perfectly like human, but it can think like human. It can, based on what has been fed into it, it can now give outputs that seems like human thinking, and it's a more efficient use of time and resources. So we need to know how we can use it in various aspects of research. And the beautiful thing about AI is that all aspects of research can find an applicable AI tool to use for such area. But the most important or the critical thing is that we must ensure that when we use it responsibly. There are journals that will tell you that you can use AI, but you must mention it in your methodology. I think many of the Q1, Q2 journals now accept AI, but you must report in your methodology that this is what you use it for and how you particularly make use of it. Just 2 or 3 days ago, I saw an application in which the call mentioned that you can use AI, but it should not be more than 10% of the content of the proposal. So this shows that AI is part of what we'll be using going forward. And we must learn how to use it and get to know all the packages that are available and how best to make use of them. Because if you don't use it well, it can actually be counterproductive. Prof?
Yeah, she's on the call, but I'm trying to get her. She's here.
We need to make her a call.
Yes. Please, can
what-
you just a minute, Louis, can you just write your name in the chat box? I can't find it.
Okay.
Write your name on the chat box, and then she can identify you. Thank you.
Okay. So, talking about AI, just on Zoom, as we are having this meeting, there is an AI tool that can be used to take a recording of what we are doing and it can summarize the session for us.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, yes, Sean, please, can you, it's CIRU, Ciru. Can you please make her a co-host so that she can share our slide? Thank you. CIRU, Ciru.
Oh, great. So
Excellent.
I'll hand over to the expert to continue the conversation from where I stopped. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kudus, and thank you, Louis, for the sacrifice. I know it's a sacrifice to be here. I truly appreciate that. For many of you, you probably might be listening to Louis for the first time. I met Louis at an African citizen training, and she's extremely passionate to do trainings for early career researchers. But the most beautiful thing about the training and the hours I spent with her was that it was not just a lecture, but it was a hands-on training. You listen to her in an hour and you gain skills, not only skills, but also excellent knowledge. So it's my pleasure to welcome Louis on board as she takes us through the use of AI for manuscript writing. Please know and listen carefully to the words between the lines. It's not about using AI unethically. There are ethical ways of using AI. And if you use it unethically, you would pay the price for that unethical practice. On that note, it is my pleasure to welcome Louis. Thanks for the sacrifice and thanks for being here. I call her Papa's baby. Thank you for being here, Louis. Over.
Thank you, Prof. And thank you so much to everyone who's online for just having a passion for research and for wanting to share your work with the world through research. And that's really what research is about. It's about sharing your work with the world. So that's the segue for today's session. I think I want to start by making it very clear that AI will not replace humans. Let's start there. I think that's been a fear. Is AI coming to replace us? No. There are nuances that AI will never have access to from your experience, from the unique perspectives of communities, from the evolving landscape that continues to evolve more and more. And so I'd just like to start by really reassuring each of the researchers here that your unique and individual perspectives are key to the process, even to the process of using AI. And we'll go through that, especially as we talk about prompts, because prompts are what would make your work uniquely yours. So without further ado, I'm logging in also on another device. Maybe I share my slides. But let's talk. I saw my colleague who I can't remember, Tony, I think. Tony spoke briefly about AI being intelligent, and I want to give you a little background of what AI is. So AI uses words like regular words that we speak, the everyday words, words in literature, words in written or published material, and it codes the words. So each word is coded, and then those codes form patterns. Now, those patterns create quote unquote databases. And so every time you run a prompt on AI, it looks at the patterns that already exist. So there are already patterns of words and how they come one after the other to form sentences and ideas and to communicate certain things. So what you're basically
Encourage Louis.
Sorry,
Your
sorry, you're not
slides,
sharing your screen.
you're not seeing your slides. Yeah.
You can't see the slides. Okay.
Yes, it's not up. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I can just continue talking as they come up. So if you could give me co-hosting rights, I've joined as Lois.
You are co-host, so you could share.
I've joined on a different device.
Okay, what device is that?
Lois.
We have to know how you are locked in so as to give you a co-host. You gave you co-host as Serial. Okay. You no longer co-author, sorry. Are you logged out? All right, I think she's dropped. And give us a minute to resolve this. Thanks for being patient. Yeah. Okay. Um, Dami, can you, there's Louis on the chat, please, can you make a co-host? LOICE. Can you make a co-host so that she can? Yeah, thank you. Okay, Louis, you're co-host now. Please go ahead and share your slides. Thank you. And you are muted. You're actually muted, so we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
Can you make it full screen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so a little bit about me. My name is Dr. Lais Kashni, and I work as a research fellow at Strathmore University, the Institute of Healthcare Management. But I also work in a digital research company called Nendo, and we do research on how human beings interact with the digital space and the innovations in the digital space and how they in turn affect human behavior. So broadly, the company is called Nendo, but I also work as a public health consultant across a variety of projects. And so I've been able to use AI to translate use cases for AI into multiple bodies of work. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Why I work with the Africa CDC specifically is because Africa CDC brings together the national public health institutes across all of Africa. And there's been generally, the people interacting with a lot of data, a lot of data sets, but there's a shortage or a gap in like how much is published out of all that data that is being routinely collected and being routinely stored and kept away. So my passion, which is it's a passion project, is to build capacity and to leverage AI tools to streamline the process of research and publishing so that all of the data that we have access to can translate into bodies of work that can inform policy and have offline effects of improving health and health outcomes. That's a broad background. So we're going to go through an introduction, like a brief introduction of what AI is, what the research tools are, how you can use AI for literature review and analysis, writing and editing support, data analysis and visualization, and finally the ethical considerations. I think I'll touch on ethical considerations all across the board. I started to say a little bit about ethics and the ethics of AI, especially around ensuring that it is a tool rather than an agent. So there is two ways to use AI. One is as an agent, so that's called agentic work, where you completely automate certain processes, and those are done exclusively by programs that have agency, so to speak. So agentic AI work, there is a place for agentic AI work, and we'll talk about it in research because it can come at the tail end when you're looking at sets of data and you want to build models where the data is routinely processed and can give you outputs. But for the purposes of research and manuscript writing, we do not want to use agentic AI. We do not want to use AI as an agent. We want to use it as a tool to complement what we have already done. So to complement our viewpoints, to complement our perspectives, to complement the gaps that we have identified, to characterize them better and explore them better for, for us to meaningfully contribute to the work that already exists. So broadly, the main types of AI tools that are used in research are large language models like ChatGPT and Cloud.
And large language models, I was speaking about large language models a little bit before I had to log off. These are models that can assist with writing, analysis, and literature. And how they work is they take words, like I said earlier, code them into numbers or codes, basically. So each word would have a specific unique code. And then there's different ways that words string together. So you can string together different words to form different ideas. And they form patterns. So language can be patternized or coded. And so what large language models do is that you look at all the different ways that words can be strung together to form ideas and to communicate different perspectives. And then they look at the ones that are most commonly used or the ones that are used to communicate certain things. So there's no necessarily thinking that the model does per se. It's mostly layers and layers of algorithms.
Sorry, Liz, Dr. Liz, your slides are not moving.
Yeah, because I'm still speaking on number one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. So these tasks, large language models look at summarization and writing assistance, but is not up to date and has no domain expertise. So why I want to dwell on that a little bit is because ChatGPT and Claude can be used as large language models for putting words and ideas together, but they are not current. They don't necessarily always, unless they continue to advance, but they don't look at newer ideas. They don't look at multiple sources to come together. They look at how words are used across the internet without necessarily classifying whether this is newer, this is older, XYZ. So it is trained with existing or historical data, so it has no nuance. So why I think it's important to give this background is because then that influences how you use ChatGPT, or Claude. It means then that for large language, even DeepSeek, that for large language models, you can use them to give you a structure or to put your words or your ideas into an order or a flow, because it will compare with other patterns that already exist and make sense of what you have already done, as opposed to generating new knowledge that you can then use. Then there are specialized research tools such as Semantic Scholar and Elicit, which specifically look at academic literature searching and analysis. And then lastly, we're going to talk briefly about data analysis tools that we can use to do our data analysis. So I've talked a little bit about how LLMs work. So when you ask a question, it breaks down your input into pieces it can understand, and then it processes it through neural networks, and then it generates a response based on the patterns it learned during training. So it's a sophisticated pattern matching system, but it doesn't have true comprehension or consciousness. So LLMs do not think or understand. So given that this is how LLMs work, then what does that mean in terms of how we use LLMs? Okay, so one is that we need to limit the use of LLMs to structure generation. And if we're using it for structure generation or to refine our work, our research work, then the output is only as good as the prompts. Remember, your words are broken down into units, which then are matched to patterns that already exist. So the prompt and what you type in is really important. The other slides, I think, you can easily go through them and experiment with all the tools I've shared, and I'll also share other resources after this call. But I think it's really important for us to spend a little bit of time on prompts. And prompts are so important that there's now a degree that is offered in prompt engineering. So it's how you make your request to a large language model, or how you use AI as a layman when you're not a software developer, or when you have lay knowledge. How do you get the most out of these tools? And that's why we'll go into prompts. So I'm going to go through 5 prompts, and because you have the resources, I'd like you to, after this, to spend time to just experiment, asking about something similar but using different prompts to see the different outcomes that you get. So one way to structure a prompt, so when I say a prompt, it's what are the instructions you type into either Claude or ChatGPT or DeepSeek. I think they're becoming more and more as we go along, but I'll focus on those 3. What do you type in when you want to get certain outputs? Well, one of the prompts we look at is called RISE. RISE is role, instruction, steps, and an example. So you start with a role. This is an example. Act
Sorry,
as a reader.
Dr. Lewis, I'm back again. This slide we are seeing is the very first slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. And now?
Okay, it's moving now. Yes. Okay, thank you.
What do you see? Rise?
Right,
You see rise?
yes.
Okay. Perfect. We're on the same slide. Has it moved? Can you see when it's
Yes, we
moved?
can see right, yes. We're on this,
Okay.
we're on the right slide. Thank you.
Okay. So we have role, instruction, steps, and example. So this is an example. You start with a role, act as a research assistant. In another case, maybe it would be act as a public health researcher. Or depending on your background, act as a statistical programmer. Summarize the key arguments in this article. So that's the instruction. Then you have the steps. Break it down into main claim, supporting evidence, limitations, and limitations. That should have been something else. You may use the attached structure in the second document as an example. So in this case, you're giving the role, you're giving the instruction, you're giving steps, and you're using an example. This gives you very rich insights, and it's great for literature reviews or document analysis. Can you see the next slide? CIDI.
Not
No.
yet. Is it possible to put it on slideshow? Okay.
Can you see CIDI?
No
Your
slides.
slide is off now, off the screen. Yes, it's back, but is it possible to put on slideshow? Yeah.
What do you see?
We are seeing the page, but not yet on slide presentation mode.
That's weird because it's on slide presentation mode here. Okay. And now?
Nothing has changed.
How about now?
I guess we just make do with it the way it is. It's still not on slideshow.
Okay.
Louis, can you pull it down? Let me share the slides and then you just prompt and I move.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm on slide 8.
Yeah. Give me a minute. I can't even. Yeah. Okay. Give me a minute.
Apologies for that.
No problem.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. So this approach is context, instruction, details, and insights. So the context is more situational rather than rule. So you're giving a broader context of, for example, I'm writing a thesis on climate policy. And you can even expand that one sentence. I'm writing a thesis on climate policy in the context of limited government funding or in the context of limited expertise, or I'm writing it I'm writing a climate policy to share with a group of climate experts. So you give more context of where this work exists, especially if there's some nuanced element that you need to come out in the response. Then you give the instructions. So I is kind of the same one in both. Instruction comes after either the role or the context. And then you add details. So in the other one, it was more of steps. So you want to follow a certain number of steps. And then you do insights. So highlight key findings and resolved issues and potential areas for further research. So this gives breadth and targeted insights and can be specifically used when you're doing when you want to find the gaps. Next slide, please. Okay. The other one is a PQRF. So problem, question, role, and format. So you have, this one is, it gives you, because, for example, ChatGPT is limited to 3,000 words. So this will limit you to about, it will not give you a large document, but it will give you a pretty good structure that you can then go back and fill in. So you have your problem, question, role, and format. So question, problem, for example. Specialty medications are expiring before use, especially in oncology, which is causing losses and treatment delays. Could you provide recommendations? So this is a question. Could you provide recommendations for inventory tracking, ordering, and storage? I am, then the role is now after the hospital pharmacist, and I would like a strategy for the next quarter. So this is ideal for turning data into very clear action points. So for research, it may not, it might come in when you want to speak about recommendations, or when you want to make recommendations or to think broadly about recommendations, and you can attach the document. Next slide. Tax. Tax is a topic, audience, constraints, and specificity. So again, an example is a topic. You start with a methodology section on survey data analysis for social science thesis. Make it suitable for a professional audience or an academic audience. If there are any constraints, limit it to 200 words and use subheadings for clarity. Prof, could you please mute your mic? Thank you. So this approach is great for building sections that need structure and brevity. So this would be good for maybe like your abstract, or when you're doing a summary. So maybe you worked on a master's document or a PhD thesis, and you now want to summarize the sections into smaller sections that you can use for a manuscript as opposed to the larger document, which is a thesis. Next slide, please. Okay, spec keeps things very concise and relevant. So specificity, purpose, examples, and constraints. So it's very specific. You state the purpose, you give an example, and the constraints. Now, this is also good for helping you get a general structure that you will use, even for your writing, whether you're writing your methodology section or if you're writing your introduction. It can provide some guidance and give you something to now come back and fill in. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we've looked at AI, well, LLMs, which are large language models. And like I said, these are good to give you structure, to help order your thoughts and order your flow. And we've discussed the prompts that you can use to give you very specific outputs, or outputs that, and you can even try a couple and see which output best fits the work you're trying to do. Now we're going to go into AI-powered search engines. Now, AI-powered search engines, we look at existing work or what is already available there, and then use this search. Yeah, they're just search engines. I will say that what distinguishes these AI-powered search engines from something like Google is one, they're highly specific, very specific and very detailed. They also use a lot of energy. So, for example, running a query on one of these say consensus app can take up to 20 times more energy than running a Google Quest. So, well, not for us, but for the people who are running these databases. So because of that, those tools that power the tool, the fact that they're using a lot of energy to run these databases and to run these queries means that they incur a cost, an energy cost. Like I said, it takes 20 times more energy to run an AI-powered prompt than it does for a Google prompt. Now, because of the cost that they incur, it is inevitable that some of this cost will be passed down to users. So what a lot of these search engines do is that they allow you to be able to search on their platforms for a couple of tries, and then after that, they ask that you pay. Now, I think it's important to just say this is why they charge you to pay, because it costs them a lot of money to keep this, to run the back end of this work. There was some work done that just keeping the ChatGPT servers running can take more electricity than the whole of New York City. So just to give you an idea of just how much power that it is costing to run AI engines. So when you use this tool, hello? Sorry, did someone
We
say
can
something?
hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So they will allow you to run a few free like trials, and then at some point a lot of these tools will ask you to sign up and make a payment. So I would suggest trying all of them, doing the free trials on each of them before you commit to one. But I'm going to talk about three, I think, here. Consensus app. So we can go to the next slide. So consensus app is great because anyone can do research if you're starting with consensus. You could be an undergrad, you could even have just finished high school, and it basically allows you to go and ask. So you log on to consensus.app and you ask a question. And it could be the most lay question. Are leaves always green? What makes leaves green? Or what is the research on the level of chlorophyll and leaves being green? It could be as lay as possible. And what it does is that, or it could even be a question like, do pregnant women like mangoes the most? Are the cravings the most in mangoes? Anyway, it will look at all the research that's available and it will make it academic. So it will make your question, which could be the most lay question, academic. Give you work that looks at the whole spectrum of the divide. So there could be 10 questions or 10 papers that say yes, pregnant women crave mangoes, or no, pregnant women don't crave mangoes, or maybe somewhere in between. So it will give you the spectrum, and then you can now choose each of them. And it also tells you the level of rigor for each of the papers, what type of paper it was. Then you can click on that paper and chat with the paper that on either side of the divide. So if you had yes responses, it enumerates which of the papers say yes, and the level of rigor, and what that paper looked at to decide on that. And then you can ask questions to the paper. So there's an option to chat with the paper. Okay, next slide. I've already talked about this, is that you must, there's a yes, possibly, and a no. So they call it the consensus meter, and you can filter out results. Next. Okay. So consensus is a good place to start, because it's something you could, if you're thinking through a bunch of questions you're not sure what to research on, you could, in maybe an hour or so, put in a number of angles at which you're looking at data, or which you're considering in a topic, and see what already exists. It helps to build a general structure of what research would look like and what already exists. So it's I would say it's very much a pre-research tool. And even as you're doing your studies or looking at something, consensus is something you want to routinely check on, even as you're trying to conceptualize what you want to work on or what you want your work to look like. Then the next one is evidencehunt.com. I realize that a lot of the people on this group may not necessarily be in medicine, so this may not apply to everybody, but Evidence Hunt links to PubMed, and PubMed is a platform that puts together all the research that's been done in medicine. And it gives you a conclusion. Evidence Hunt gives you a conclusive statement. So whereas consensus will give you a range of answers, Evidence Hunt will look at all the evidence and give you a specific answer then that you can then explore more. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So it not only gives you a conclusion, it also gives you a PICO analysis. So PICO is an approach that looks at population, intervention, the comparison, and the outcome. It's a framework that's used to formulate a research question and to facilitate literature review. So now we are moving on to literature review. We've started to conceptualize what we want to research, and now we're moving to the literature review. Next. Then they cite AI. It looks at all the sources and then comes up with a write-up, like a full and complete write-up. Now, Cite is very much like a lazy, not a lazy tool per se, but I think why, again, like I said, part of why I find AI exciting is because we can convert all the data that we have into action and publish on it with less resources, so that everybody essentially becomes a researcher. And these tools help us to do that. Again, like I said, it's also very important to bring your nuance. Cite AI, what Cite AI does is you have to be careful with Cite AI. I think it's important to write your notes, your thoughts down on a piece of paper before you go to Cite AI, because it's very easy for it to bias you because it's very efficient. Okay, next. Perplexity is broader. I would put Perplexity at the very beginning together with Consensus because it looks at a topic from across the web, including relevance. How popular is this topic? Who is discussing it? Is it featuring in media? Is it featuring in traditional media, on social media? What are the discussions around this topic that I'm curious on? So Perplexity and Consensus are very much at your conceptualization stage. Next. Scholar.io is now more academic. It does a lot of work that is similar to Evidence Hunt in that you can chat with the document, but it also can batch analyze many papers. So Scholar.io can look at multiple papers at once and help you come up with a conceptual framework, or all the theories that you could possibly consider. Next. Okay. So with some of these tools cut across the board, they are from conception to introduction and literature review. So going deeper into literature review, 3 tools specifically, Research Rabbit, Connected Papers, and Insightful.xyz help you to see the relationship and to build out a timeline in the research that you're doing. So, for example, we can move to the next slide. For Research Rabbit, it has a web. It shows you, and the size of the circle is related to the impact of the paper, how impactful it was, how many times it was quoted. So you can actually map. So for example, this, I don't even remember what this is, but you can start from 2006, 2005. You see the subsequent work that was done in 2006, who did it, 2008, and then the interrelatedness of all these papers. This is now a visual representation, but in Research Rabbit, you'll be able to have more details. And you can even take notes against a paper that can be transferred to MS Word. So it means that your literature review can all happen, online on one platform. Next. So I'm rushing through, so there's time for questions. Connected papers is very similar, and it helps you also to create the bibliography. Next. Oh, I should mention, Research Rabbit has remained consistently free for many, many years. So there's that. For me, I have a bias towards Research Rabbit, especially when I'm talking to people who are just getting into research and you don't want to commit an amount of money to access these tools. So Research Rabbit is a good one. Insightful maps work around one specific paper. So as opposed to showing the relationships across different papers like Research Rabbit or connected papers, Insightful maps it around one paper. So if there's like a cardinal paper in the field that you want to limit your work to, or it's a framework you want to challenge or you want to add to a framework, then Insightful is a good tool. Next. Scholarly. Scholarly is a good tool for, it summarizes articles, and I think what makes it really helpful is that it can add like a visual element if you want to add a visual element of comparing different papers, and then it links key terms to other sources for definitions. SciSpace does something similar, and it also allows you to interact with the PDF. Next. A part of why also I should say that I'm sharing multiple tools is because you want to try as many as possible and get all the freeness, all the value from all the access you can get before you commit to one. So this is part of the reason why I'm showing you many. Okay, so you have conceptualized your paper, you've used Consensus AI, Consensus app, or Perplexity. You have a concept, you have an idea of what you want to do. You've done your literature review through your Research Rabbit or your Scholarly or your Evidence Hunt. And then you've also seen the methodologies that have been used in previous papers and you've decided on one. Now you can also again use some of those tools to build your own data collection tools or to support you as you build your data collection tools. And then now you want to do your research, your data analysis. And I have found Julius AI to be such a good tool because not only does it clean the data, it runs the analysis, it does significance tests, it extracts tables, it does data visualization, and it can be shared by a team. I think another thing that's very appealing for me about Julius AI is that you don't necessarily have to be an expert. The prompts can be very lay prompts. It could be, you don't need to have a background knowledge of research and how it works. You could actually say, is this work? Does this make sense? Is it significant? Is it not significant? And it will run all of that for you. And then there's two options. You can either use Python or R. So you make that specification when you are giving the prompt. Next. Okay, I'm going to quickly wrap up because so that I can give questions. And then I will also share on the platform, like just another repository of, some resources that will expose you to more tools, but I wanted to give like a broad overview. Now, the last thing is, at this point, we're assuming you've conceptualized your paper, you've done your literature review, you've decided on a methodology, you've collected your data, you've done your data analysis, you've gone back to use some of your other tools, such as your LLM tools, to come up with recommendations and a discussion. Well, it's not done the work for you per se, but you've used these tools to develop all of these sections. Now, how do you stay up to date? How do you check on how you've assuming you've now published? And I'll talk about publishing in a minute because it's important to acknowledge all of the tools that you have used when you're submitting your paper. And say this, it was supported by X, Y, Z. Yeah, it's very important. And you cannot list AI as a co-author. But now to stay up to date, I recommend R Discovery. It creates a feed for you and it keeps you up to date with all the new publications in your field as soon as they are published. And then it also provides audio version, so you can listen to new papers even as you're doing something else. Could be in your car, if you're keen on something, if there's something that you're working on, That's really important that you know what's happening in the field for a period. It could be like monkeypox, for example, right now, or at the time when the outbreak was at its peak. You want to be at the forefront if you're in response. So this is now for the NPHIs. You want to know all the data that's coming up as soon as it comes up, because if you're responding to emergencies, you this is again in the public health context. You want to know all the research that's coming up and whether you need to change your treatments or your approach as soon as, because it's criminal to have data to do something and not use it. So, and it's also criminal to not know. Ignorance is no defense. So our discovery is a great tool to just keep you up to date. Okay, next. Okay, so these tools that are in this slide are really to help with grammar and flow, paraphrasing, and then also plagiarism. I will say again, it also has AI detectors, so it analyzes text. Although what I've realized about the AI detectors, and this is true for most of them, AI detectors will detect your work as AI if you mass copy. Like if you copy paste work and you do not even edit it, that it will be, yeah, it will be detected. But again, it's okay also for it to be detected as AI if you've acknowledged that the ideas, the conceptualization was XYZ and this is how I used AI. But also it checks for citations to see, yeah, so PaperPal, Killbot, even Grammarly is also another tool that you can include here. Okay, next. Yeah, so coming to a conclusion, and I'll do it quickly because I'd really like to take in questions. One is AI use should be acknowledged. And there are tools that detect AI with 100% accuracy, especially Turnitin. However, this, yeah, so acknowledge it, acknowledge where you've used it, and yeah, thinking also cannot be outsourced. So this is again just to, it's not a warning, it's more of an encouragement that your unique version, your unique views and perspectives are so important. There's not enough room in the world for everybody's there's I mean there's more. We can never fill the world with all our views. There's always room for everyone's unique views and perspectives. You, two or three or four or five or 10 people could be looking at the exact same things, but looking at it from very different angles. So, I mean, it's just an encouragement that even as you do research, that come at it with a sense of individualism and confidence that your unique perspectives or your unique thoughts. Whereas it's good to have other tools that complement your way of thinking or that show you work that has been done or challenge you to think in other ways. Still, there is that room for your individual perspective that the world needs and that research needs and that the body of work that exists benefits from. So just an encouragement to you as researchers to always add that sense of, to add yourself, in Kenya we call it your sauce. Add your sauce in your research. And thank you. That's the end of the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you very much for that elucidating discussion on AI in research. Your thinking cannot be outsourced. I think that's a good way to end this. So we'll quickly take questions and comments then. Let me go to the chat box if there are questions.
Yeah, actually, there are no questions on the chat box, but I have a question. Thank you for the brilliant presentation. Dr. Abdul, if you could just put your questions in the chat box. We usually don't want the space for hands. Please just drop your question and then we'll read it. In terms of acknowledging AI, how do we do that? Where do we write the acknowledgement and how extensive do you write it? For example, if I'd used multiple AIs, how do I acknowledge it? If I'd only used AI to edit my English, how do I write it? Thank you very much. Over.
Yeah. I think So there's several ways that you can use it. I mean, you can use, so just looking at the research process, maybe that's where to start, right? You have probably used different sources to do to do your literature review. Now, that you may not necessarily acknowledge because it's not just, unless you've copy pasted, then if you copy paste something, then you really need to acknowledge that this I copy pasted from AI. But if you are using it to guide your literature review, I mean, it's just a search engine. You don't necessarily, it's like acknowledging that you used Google, quote unquote. But if you have used at the end, especially a tool to like align it and to ensure that there's a flow, I think the most recent tool that you've used is the one you should acknowledge. And of course, when you've used data analysis tools, you should acknowledge the tool that you used for your data analysis. But also, beyond that, reference that this tool used R. So, for example, if you use Julius, and in Julius you use the Python option, now you have to say, okay, this is the tool I used and this is the option I used. But it's also always good to have a statistician look at it for you as well, especially if you don't have that research, if you don't have that statistics background. But sometimes, again, the reason why this training was done and these tools are, I'm passionate about them being used by NPHIs is because the capacity just does not exist. As one statistician, if you're to rely on that one statistician to do everything, all the research, and it becomes a rate limiting factor because budgets don't allow etc. So to some extent, I'd almost say it's okay to acknowledge just the tool, and if someone on the editorial board wants to flag something that wasn't necessarily correct, then you can pick it up from there. But yes, so the statistics tool and also the most recent tool that you used for like an overall view of the whole paper. And I think that's how I've approached it in the past.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before Kudus takes over, there are people online, and there's a question that says, I'm sure it's just a repeat. Ade Damola Adeni says, thanks for your presentation. Are the AI tools free? I guess you've answered it before, but maybe he wasn't online. Thank you. Over.
Yeah, I can answer again. So they have, you can use them, it depends on which one, and that's why I've shared a range, and I'll share even more on the group. There are some that are free and there are some that are not. I said Research Rabbit specifically is free. The others allow you to use it a couple of times, sometimes even like 7 prompts a week or 3 prompts a day. So they have some limitations into how much you can use them before you have to sign up and make a payment. And why that is because these tools are very expensive for the developers to run because they use a lot of energy. So that those costs are ultimately passed down to us because a lot of them are actually funded by venture capitalists. But for the ones that are not and have like a pay for use model, the cost will be will be passed down to you. Again, the trick is also to use as many as possible so that you get as many free uses as you can, and also to see which one fits your use the most, which one fits your needs the most.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. I think the questions are now coming in on the chat box, and I will start with this. I think you've answered that. How do you reference the AI, please? I guess you've answered that already. The next one is, I use AI for brainstorming. How can I acknowledge it?
You don't acknowledge it for brainstorming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
this
I've seen you can say you used it for conceptualization, but I don't know how true that would be because you're the one who wrote the prompt. So at the end of the day, it's also it wasn't it it didn't brainstorm for you.
yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you can't list all the tools. So you can say, I used several tools in different stages of the process. But the one that you must acknowledge is one that you've used, like at the over, like for example, data analysis. That one you must acknowledge. The same way you have to do acknowledge en vivo. Then you also have to acknowledge if you've used maybe ChatGPT to order the work or Grammarly and Grammarly actually is not flagged as AI, but like if you've used Quillbot or Paperpal or if you've copy pasted, you have to acknowledge that this is the site that I've or this is the tool that I used.
All right. The next one is, if I humanize AI, do I still need to reference
Sorry, if I
humanize AI? I mean, I think that's
humanize,
what you spoke to. Yeah.
yes, you still reference it.
Okay.
And the AI the AI tools that exist to humanize AI are actually very, very bad. Very, very, very bad. At least as of now. But you know, new things are coming up every day. So I don't want to say they'll never be good tools, but it's been very difficult to humanize AI.
All right.
Maybe in your prompt,
Um,
what you can do to humanize it a little bit is to vary the length of sentences. So what happens is that AI sentences are very similar. It will be like 7 to 8 words per sentence. So there's no musicality to it because that's not how human beings speak. We're not that specific. There's not that much precision in how much we communicate. So it's also to look at the work that the output that you've received and see how are these sentences. Some are, they're very specific, they're very similar. So when you're editing it is to keep that in mind. How do I make this easy to read in the sense of like it's almost like poetry? Um, how do I make it engaging? How do I add now this is where we say what's your source type of thing, yeah.
all right. We have just few minutes more. So let me take this. Olubake is asking, some colleagues have had their paper rejected, saying it was written by AI, and it was not so. What does one do in such a case? The case of
Yeah, that's
yeah.
That's actually been a challenge a lot, and there's actually a lot of discourse around it because there are some words that have been associated with AI a lot. So words like robust, it's almost it's become such an AI word, robust, and just the floweriness of language. But the argument is this, and it's a very much African versus Western argument, that Africans generally write better. They write well. They use very extensive language because their training is like that, and also because of colonialism that you could not communicate until you had overdone and over communicated. So there is those challenges in the back. I think for your colleagues, what I would say is that they should run a I'll share something that you could use, a tool that you could use, but basically is to run an analysis and get an analytic report of whether AI has been used, and then you resubmit it together with the analytic report. They might still say no because I acknowledge that there is a level of racism, but you've tried and you've shared a report. So to run a report saying to what extent it looks like AI, it's
Yeah,
to
thank you. We
resubmit.
have just 2 minutes more, so I'll take this last question. Others can take the questions to the group. Is it possible to have one good search engine that will address all our research components like literature analysis?
Yes, Abacus. There's abacus.io, which brings together a lot of AI tools under one platform, and there are more coming up every day. So, Abacus, let me put it in the chat to everyone. Yeah.
Okay, we still have a minute, so I'll take this. It's a lengthy one. Is it advisable to use AI when writing a PhD thesis? Since we have AI detector now, in that situation, what can we do so as your work not to be detected? Um, what about in-text citation when using AI?
Okay. First question: Is it advisable to use AI when writing a PhD? Yeah, I'm biased. Personally, I'm biased, and I think yes. Since we have AI detectors now in the situation, what can we do? Again, like I said, don't copy paste. write it out, because as you write it out, you have a chance to think about it, you have a chance to combine ideas, you have a chance to think it through, see what works, what doesn't. And then again, the sentence length and structure and words will vary if you type it out. So you're not copy pasting, you're typing out what you have seen. And then again, also just because of how neural networks work, copy pasting is more detectable than typing out typing out the content.
All right. Okay. Someone is asking, can you use AI for all the content of your research work, from conceptualization to writing to everything?
Yes, you can, but it's not yes, you can, but it's not advisable. You still have to think it through. This is what I'm trying to continuously emphasize, that AI is layers and layers of neural networks. There's no individualism, there's no consciousness, there's no thought. So it's still important to complement. These are tools rather than agents. And I think I started off by saying that they're tools, not agents. So if you do that, you're using it in an agentic way. And there's nothing wrong with that, depending on what your function is. But if you're trying to contribute to a body of work, then the nuance or the individualism comes in with your own thoughts and perspectives.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of this very interesting session.
Please give me 1
which
minute.
has...
Let me ask something from online.
Okay.
It says, how does turn it in work in the context of paraphrasing using Quillbot? How does turn it in work in the context of paraphrasing using Quillbot? Thank you. Over.
Yeah. Turnitin can still detect AI used in Quillbot, because again, Quillbot is relying on neural patterns. So it would still detect, Turnitin would still detect the use of AI when you've used Quillbot and used the paraphrase prompt or option. So you still have to type it out, think it through, especially if you're in an institution that does not allow AI use.
Thank you very much. I think we'll continue the questions on the group chats. It's been a well spent 1 hour of learning and exploring the world of AI. I'm sure the participants are going to start using AI responsibly going forward from this conversation. And there are a lot of AI tools that can be explored, like the speaker just explained. Just look at the one that suits you and use it responsibly. That's the key word. You cannot outsource your thinking. I mean, that's a key takeaway from here for me. Prof, today marks the end of our 8-week session for the early career researchers. I think you may want to have a concluding remark so that
Yes, indeed.
it's been an
First of all,
interesting
Louis,
8 week.
this is always marvelous. It's made so simple, made applicable. And I know we stress you, but I'm going to come back again. It's brilliant. And thanks for the way you teach it. It's powerful. Thank you. Thanks for everyone that has been with us for 8 weeks. It's been a lovely journey. I must say tiring, and I'm just saying, hooray, we finally come to the end of 8 weeks. I'll share some words with you on how to get your certificates. For those who need to get certificate, those that have been with us for multiple. This is not the first. I think this is the 5th or 6th that we've done in the series of training back to back. We have the senior career researchers starting in another 2 weeks, I think. Yes. So I think, and then we're having our virtual conference taking us to the end of April, May, mid of during the Senior Career Researchers Week. We'll be having the virtual conference. Please register for the virtual conference. Tell your people about the virtual conference. Present abstract at the virtual conference. The virtual conference is completely different. 2 things that is completely different about it. First is real-time review of your abstract, the minute you submit your abstract is going to be revised because we plan to publish it and we want top publication. So it's real-time references. So we review your abstract and give you comments, like as if we are reviewing manuscripts. And then second, this conference is not siloed. So in each session, you'll be seeing our Greek, humanities, arts, medicine presenting, so that we are, as we are promoting with manuscript writing, we are promoting transdisciplinary approach. So anybody that is present is not listening to a stream or a specific line of learning, but we're learning about everything together, and hopefully your ideas about manuscript writing will be built. So please participate. It's still open. Everything closes April 15th. But once again, submit your abstract. It is real-time review of the abstract. You would continue to get feedback on the abstract until we get a suitable abstract that is going to be presented. A third thing that is different, I know it's not unique to this, is that the abstract presentation oral is just 3 minutes. You're going to have to learn to pitch. So before ahead of the conference, we'll give about 3 days where we teach you how to pitch. It's about pitching, not coming here to tell stories. That isn't going to hit people. So for those that abstract will be accepted for orals, we would organize 3 sessions and then bring people to teach you how to pitch, do a 3-minute speeching. And all you're going to present is 1 slide or speak to it. And yes, convince the audience to be co-researchers for you in future. On that note, we'll continue our conversation on the platform. It's been an extensive, exciting 8 weeks. I hope you guys also feel the same. Thank you once again, Louis, my sister, my friend. I love you. And I love you more for the brilliance and the way you present such a topic to the world. We had very good participation online, and they were full of thanks to you. My grandson says good morning. Good morning.
And thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye. Yes, it's our time, darling. All right. Goodbye, everyone. See you on the platform. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Do have a lovely weekend.
Bye. You too. Thank you so much. Bye.
Like, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Thank you. Well done.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. God bless you for everybody. Thank you for this. Bye. Thank you, everybody, my colleagues, my friend. Bye-bye.